Welcome once again to Diving Deep. I am your host, Pastor Michael Gannaway, and this is part 2 of Matthew chapter 10. We shall pick up where we left off at the end of part 1, that's Matthew chapter 10, starting in verse 21. Now brother will deliver a brother to death, and father his child, and children will rise up against his parents, and cause them to be put to death. And you will be hated by all for my name's sake. But he who endures to the end will be saved. As I said, the disciples, perhaps listening to this, were wondering if Jesus was someone they should be following, since families are going to be destroyed because of him. Well, let's now turn to another reference, John chapter 15, where Jesus pretty much says the same thing, but I think he goes into greater depth. John chapter 15, starting in verse 18. He says, "If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you. If they kept my word, they will keep yours also. But all these things they will do to you for my name's sake, because they do not know him who sent me." So, he talks about how they're going to hate them, here in Matthew, but in John, he simply explains, if they hate you, it's because they hated me first. If they hate you, it's because you are not of the world. They are of the world, but not you. So, more or less, he's just saying, take it as a sign that you are right with God if the ungodly hate you. And that doesn't mean you have to enjoy being persecuted. That doesn't mean you have to enjoy being hated. No. You're not supposed to enjoy it. You're supposed to endure it. But just take heart. Jesus says, "But be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world." Yes, the world has been overcome. Okay. And we can overcome the world with him in us. All right, continuing on. Verse 24, "A disciple is not above his teacher, nor a servant above his master. It is enough for a disciple that he be like his teacher, and a servant like his master." Yeah. Jesus is going to be persecuted, so are we. We are not above him. Yeah. Jesus endured hardships, so do we. Okay. Continuing on. Okay. "If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more will they call those of his household? Therefore do not fear them, for there is nothing covered that will not be revealed, and hidden that will not be known. Whatever I tell you in the dark, speak in the light. Whatever you hear in the ear, preach on the housetops." Yeah. Whatever I tell you quietly, shout it out. And now we have to put this in context here. Sometimes God will reveal stuff to us that we aren't supposed to shout out. Yeah. But so I think this is being here. It's only being addressed to the 12. you know. Okay. I mean, Brother Humphrey, you know, prophet, not every prophetic word he received was for everybody. Not every prophetic word he heard was meant to be shouted out. So, we got to use our discernment there. Yeah. Okay. 28. And do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather fear him, God, who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to let the fear of man get the best of you, you should start thinking about God. You know, I think about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They either had to bow down to the idol or be thrown in the furnace. Is that a scary situation? Sure. But you know what? Drove them to not do that? I think it was the fear of God, because they knew full well, you know, bowing down to a graven image, that goes against the second commandment. They knew they would be breaking one of God's laws if they did that. You know, and so I think it was the fear of God that kept them straight, so much that they were able to bravely stand up to King Nebuchadnezzar and says, "We will do no such thing. Even if we burn to death, we won't do it." Yeah. Okay. Continuing. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a copper coin, and not one of them falls to the ground apart from your Father's will? But the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Do not fear, therefore, you are of more value than many sparrows. All right. So that's, this is interesting. He goes from talking about being afraid of God, and then he says, do not fear, for God values you much. Yeah. You know, God is a passionate God. You know, He's not a God of indifference. You know, I mean, He's either feverishly for you and in love with you, or feverishly against you, that He'll destroy you. Yeah. Yeah. 32. Therefore, who confesses me before men, him I will also confess before my Father who is in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, him I will also deny before my Father who is in heaven. You know, we say we're believers in Jesus, but have any of us truly had our faith tested? Imagine being in the face of some Muslim radical, and he has a blade to your throat, and he asks you the question, who is God? And you know full well that if you say anything but Allah, or if you say Jesus, you know that blade's going right through your neck. What are you going to say? Well, whatever you truly believe is what you're going to say. Because if you truly believe Jesus, you're going to believe that if I say His name before this guy, he will say my name before the Father. And you would also know that if I don't say His name before him to save my own neck, well, then Jesus will deny me before the Father. Do you really believe this? Yeah. Yeah, we may, quite often we give thanks that we don't suffer persecution in this country, unlike our brothers and sisters in China or Nigeria or the Sudan or Afghanistan. But you know something? I think that without persecution, we can't truly discover what it is we believe. Yeah. But you know what? As we get closer and closer to the end, persecution will increase everywhere, including here. So I'd say we need to get on our faces and just start seeking God, saying, do I really believe? Do I really believe in you? So much so that I'd be willing to die for you? Yeah. Continuing. 34. Do not think that I came to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's enemies will be those of his own household. Go back to what he said earlier about how brother will deliver brother to death, father and a father his child, and children will rise up against parents. This was actually foretold in Micah chapter 7, verse 6. And now he's just saying this prophecy is about to be fulfilled through me. Families rising up against each other. And he continues on. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Now I must confess, for the longest time, I took issue with this. I could understand obeying Jesus. He is our Lord. And therefore, we are to do what he tells us to do. But now he says we have to love him more than our love of family members. And my thinking was, where does he get off saying that? Why does that matter to him? Okay. Anybody who's been through basic training has served under a drill sergeant, and you of course are required to do whatever the drill sergeant tells you, no matter what it is, and you don't dare question it. But let me ask you this: does the drill sergeant care if you love him? No, he doesn't care. In fact, he doesn't care. He doesn't care if you hate him. In fact, he expects you to hate him. That's not the. As long as you obey him, you can hate him all. You can hate him all you want, and it's not going to matter to him. And yet, hear Jesus saying, "You must love me." So, what are we supposed to make of this? Well, first of all, Jesus is no drill sergeant. Yeah. There are some preachers out there that will make him out to be one, but he's not. He's not. So then, it's got me to ask the question, okay, all right, Jesus, what do you think of me? I know how I'm supposed to feel about you, but Jesus, how do you feel about me? Okay. Well, then I got to reading the following, I guess, I'm not sure if they're parables, but they're metaphors. Matthew 13, starting in verse 44. He's talking about the kingdom of heaven. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure in a field, where a man found and hid, and for joy over it he goes, and sells all that he has, and buys the field. And then continuing in verse 45. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls, who, when he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. And I just started to think about that. So, that's how we're supposed to value the kingdom of heaven. But then I thought about Jesus. And I thought, what did he do for me? He abandoned heaven. Became a man. He became fully man. He actually had to give up his deity, his godhood, in order to become a humble servant. He gave all that up. And ultimately, he gave up his life. He bled, he suffered, he even endured separation from his Father, something he had never, ever known. And as I thought about that, I realized, oh my goodness, he gave up everything he had for me. What does that make me? What does that make you? Well, that makes me the treasure in the field. No. That makes me the pearl of great price, too. And that makes you the treasure in the field and the pearl of great price. And and also what it makes you the center of his world. Yeah. I'm the center of his world. You're the center of his world. Right? I mean, how many out there have ever been in love? I mean, and you were so in love with somebody, you would do you would do anything, go to the ends of the earth to be with that person. It's because you are driven by love. You are driven by passion. You are driven by desire to be with them. That is the love of Jesus for me. That is the love of Jesus for you. The center of his world. All right, now let's go back to what he says. He who loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. He who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. If he has made you and me the center of his world, it's only natural that he would expect the same back from us. That we would in return make him the center of our world. You know what I believe that he's speaking out of when he says these words? Jealousy. He is jealous for us. He is jealous to have us. He desires us. And he desires us so much that if we desire others before him, it hurts him deeply, cuts him deeply. Because the desire of his heart does not feel the same about him. Have you ever endured that kind of hurt? Where you have your heart set on someone, but the other doesn't feel the same way about you? How painful that is. Same kind of pain. Yes, same kind of hurt. And I believe that's what drives him to speak such words of, well, I guess words of passion. Yeah. All right. Let that sink in for a second. Okay. Then we'll continue. Verse 38. And he who does not take his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. Well, what does that mean? Well, during this time of Roman executions, where crucifixions were well known, the condemned carried his cross before being crucified upon it. What he's just saying is, are you willing to die to yourself? I mean, really, picking up your cross is a willingness to die, to your own desires. and follow after him. That's what he's talking about. Do you love me so much you're willing to forget about yourself and your own ambitions and follow me and do what I want? Right. 39. He who finds his life will lose it, and he who loses his life for my sake will find it. Mm-hmm. This earthly life of ours, it's temporary. It's going to end. Doesn't matter how rich you become, how powerful you become, you're going to die. And you're going to lose it all. So, but here Jesus is saying, are you willing to lose it now, just to forget about it now, in order to discover eternal life? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Eternal life is a free gift, and yet at the same time there's a cost to it. Mm-hmm. Catherine Coleman, says, someone asked her, what's it going to cost? What will it cost me to truly know Jesus? Catherine said, what will it cost you? It'll cost you everything. But when you give up everything, you can truly have him, because you're not holding on to anything else. Yep. All right. Verse 40. He who receives you receives me. Again, there's that word receive. And he who receives me receives him who sent me. So, you receive the servant of God, then you receive God also. You receive the Messiah also. Yeah. Go back to, the sheep and the goats. It says, for much as you've done it to the least of my brethren, you've done it unto me. Yeah, notice what he says there, my brethren. Too much as you've done it to the least of my brethren, you've done it unto me. Okay? It's the same message here. Same thing. Okay. 41. He who receives a prophet in the name of a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. Now that begs the question, what is a prophet's reward? Well, I'd have to say being glorified in heaven. Yeah. It talks about, in the book of Hebrews, there's a section in Hebrews, I forget where it is, but it's some call it the Faith Hall of Fame, where it goes after great folks of faith, and what they were willing to endure in order to fulfill the job of the prophet. The prophet's job is, they endure a lot of abuse, because quite often what they have to say is not something folks want to hear. And some folks will kill them just to shut them up. But, whatever price you're willing to pay in this life, the greater your reward in the next life. So, okay. That's what I think a prophet's reward is. Okay. And he who receives a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous reward. Okay. He's speaking a lot about how we treat the servants of God, the people of God. It makes me think about what's going on in Israel right now. The attacks the Jews are suffering. The Jews, those are the children of God, the brethren of Jesus. That hasn't changed. And when you those who bless Israel receive blessing. Those who curse Israel receive a curse. You know, Brother Humphrey, he will. He's got a lot of testimonies about blessings he's received because he blessed Israel. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. All right. For those who don't know, Brother Humphrey, he's my spiritual mentor. Yeah. Yeah. He picked me up from nothing, you know, and I wouldn't be sitting here if it weren't for him. I'm so thankful to him. Yeah. All right, verse 42. And whoever gives one of these little ones only a cup of cold water, in the name of a disciple, assuredly I say to you, he shall by no means lose his reward. Now, you know, what's a little one? I believe in this context, a little one refers to a disciple of Jesus, servant of Jesus, and you know, if you're willing to give even just a cup of cold water, you know, to one of these disciples, simply because you love him or her, you do it out of love. And you're also saying that you love God. You're showing God that you love him too. And even the smallest blessing, you know, is worthy of some reward. Yeah. But that's very comforting. You know, there's no act of kindness so small that God doesn't see it. Now, in regards to reward, some people will be kind and do charitable things just to be noticed, to receive praise from men. Well, if that's their intent, then they get their reward doesn't come from God; it comes from man. But, okay. All right. Well, that concludes our teaching. Thank you for joining me, and have a blessed one.